about it as well. But so I went, and there was a little, there were 4 chairs, and then in front of each person there was a food item. And while she spoke, I did not know this, while she spoke about food, we were supposed to write about whatever item was in front of us in 15 minutes and then read it. Well, I'd never written before about food, but anyway, I'm just going to read you what I wrote about basil, because that was there. Also, can I say that I had been on the road for 9 months, and you might pick up that I was kind of missing my loved one of 25 years. So this is called Ode to Basil. It ended up in a magazine somehow. Ode to Basil. On fall days, when the weather turned crisp as a heartbreak and the scent of memories dwindled to embers filled the air, my mother made basil pies. I ran home from school on those days, the nutty sweet smell of autumn wrapped around me, and a fresh green basil pie sat steaming on the Formica kitchen counter, waiting to be devoured. The best part of the pie was the way the leaves swam in the soupy green syrup, and the whole thing bubbled over, spilling out of the lattice top. The pastry my mother so carefully layered with her delicate fingers, and this is all a lie. Because basil has nothing to do with nostalgia. You don't remember the sweet, succulent juiciness of childhood days through basil because, 1, your mother didn't have the time and money to spend on fresh basil, and 2, basil stands up and punches you in the nose. Lime green, olive green, shamrock green. Basil stands for none of these. It is not a color to paint your walls and then stand back and admire from afar. You bend at the waist when you greet it. You spread its stems and bury your face in it. The almost flowery scent that teases, the almost salty taste that begs for your tongue, the garlic that it almost pairs with but never gives itself up to entirely. Basil. When I first met the love of my life, she told me she did not like basil. Or ginger. It was one of those Frida Kahlo moments, a time when you think, maybe this is it, Diego, maybe we can't go on. What my mouth would do on lonely nights when she was not with me, and furthermore, what her mouth would do without basil, pesto, polenta, pad thai, caprese, to distract it at dinner. Thank God I learned it was actually bay leaves that she didn't care for. And then take them out, such a bother, and if you leave them in and bite down on them by mistake, they taste like yesterday's linen, but basil. There's nothing showy about it. You could step right over it, searching for something beautiful, say an orchid, but that orchid would not enhance your pizza. Basil refuses mortality. Crumble its dried bones on your za and watch the tomatoes salute it. The onions soften toward it. The hot peppers grow so full of themselves that they bite back when you try to swallow them down. It's the basil that brings those things to their senses. The basil that opens itself and says, take, eat. This is the life of everything rooted. This is the land, the sky of my home away from home, the all-night cafes on the corners in Manhattan and Chicago, the east and the west of Thai and Italian, the fresh lemonade and the Mai Tai, the sparagmos of beginnings and the gentle nights on end when you bend at the waist and kiss the one you love, no longer distant, but close up, buried, so gently, so completely, in the scent of it all. If you'll allow me, I have one more that I would like to read. I only read this one in the presence of other writers. And I'm going to dedicate it to everybody here, because this is a tough task that we have, and it's well, let me just say, I was ill for some time, and I still have remnants of it, and so sometimes anyway, this is written about that. Actually, this was written as an answer to a grant question. It was never supposed to be published. I inadvertently sent it to an editor, and he popped it in this magazine, and then it ended up reprinted several times. And so, but I'm reading it as sort of a dedication to all of us writers, and it's called Word Hoard. Once I became aphasia. Synapses, one of my doctors explained to me, are an all or none proposition. Mine or none. Fish, bagel, lion, table, pelican, funicular. This is the way I named things. The funicular skimmed the surface of the ocean searching for bagels. Ocean was big enough usually to fit on my tongue and palate, to dance on my tongue and groove. The rest of the words I have filled in after the fact, like we usually do with memory, aphasic or not. We like to be understood. What I really might have said may have involved funicular and bagel, but the words between would have been gibberish. My brain was an unplanned language poem, and I, a woman who disliked language poetry for its insistence upon ambiguity. When you don't have it, language becomes unflinchingly precise. Signifier, signified, bullshit. Words carry on their backs their entire histories. This is what I learned the day they packed up and left me languageless. No forwarding address, no wish-you-were-here postcard. Postcard, night cream, yard, breast, water, orgasm. Holy fuck, I was dead in the water without language. As it is with any lover, I did not see my words packing their bags to go. If I had, I'd have tried to stop them. I'd have begged, let's work this out, you and me. Let's find a middle ground. I didn't see the verbs colluding with the nouns, the adverbs separating off, the adjectives running like lemmings to the cliff of my lips. I went to bed one night with the congregation gathering in my throat to sing me awake the next morning, and I woke with the stale mix of nonsense in my mouth, Fruit Loops instead of the promise of eggs hatching thoughts in my brain for breakfast. My doctors were flummoxed. A year into it, and I was depressed. I do not mean sad. I mean looking for the word gun daily, something to put in my mouth. I had studied classics instead of writing in college. I needed to know the genetic origin of words, their family tree. I mean, without that, all words are adopted. They grow up angry foster children wanting to burn things down. I wanted to know their mother and their grandmother. I wanted to know their Adam, their Eve, their Eden, their original sin, knowledge. When you use the word flummox, for instance, your tongue rolls across the same territory of every person who has ever spoken that word. They say that every third breath you breathe contains at least one of the same molecules Caesar exhaled as he was dying. Muriel Rukeyser has said the universe is made of stories, not atoms. Think of the words then, the same words you breathe that have been inhaled and exhaled throughout history. If you're looking for a link, there it is. They are only shapes and noises formed into meaning, but how many shapes and noises have crossed the tongues of those who have come before you? And this exact shape and noise has crossed centuries to come to you now, fully formed. Athena from Zeus's head, or so you believe, even as it transforms itself. Backing up. Athena from Zeus's head, or so you believe, as it transforms itself, even as it leaves your lips. Words say simultaneously too much and too little. This is why they are perfect for communication. Most people's lives operating in the balance between too much and too little. There's nothing more precise. In those years without language, I was limbless. I had no way to reach out. I had no way to touch others or myself. Water, orgasm. My body had no reason to come or go anywhere. Words are my nourishment. They are the molecules that seethe in my veins. They are the light that filters through the rods and cones of my eyes to create color and dimension. They are my resting heart rate, my tulips, my knives, my forks, and my spoons. Writing to me means food, means sustenance. If I had another choice, I tell you, I'd make money. It's catch-22. You must eat to live, must live to work. I eat my art for breakfast because I know what it is to go wordless, to be naked on the tongue and groping for a story that makes sense. Tower, meridian, apple, bird, chalice, fly, write, live, silence, die. Here's what I know. I have come into existence alongside words. Others have come into existence alongside business or sculpture or engineering or music or acting or science. But words carry with them a unique challenge. We use them daily whether we love them or not, and so loving them is a fix. Unless you are stuck in a Hollywood musical, people do not usually sing to you as a form of communication. Unless you're a Neanderthal, they usually don't draw to you. But people will talk to you with words, even when you're a writer. They will toss your medium around willy-nilly. They will use it to bad ends. They will use it to create wars, to manipulate leaders, to rape people, to sell. You will be tempted to think your medium mundane, sometimes evil. You'll be forced to discipline yourself against this. It will make you poor. Once I was aphasia. The condition lasted to some extent or another for 10 years. When I came back to words, I came back like a lover who had a mistaken affair. Once the damage is done, it's done. But there's a carefulness that follows. You don't take things for granted. You speak from the soles of your feet, a current of meaning running through your body, each word carrying with it its history and the intimate mouths of your ancestors speaking it. Their lips touch yours as the word leaves you. This is what connects you to who you are, what you love, what you caress, what it is that leaves you and in its absence makes you lonelier than God. When it returns, it becomes holy. When it returns, you see the sacred and the profane. You do not fall prostrate before it. You hold it. You let it go. You live with it. You live. Thank you.